Hi, and welcome back to Focal Point on AFR Talk. Brian Fisher is my name. The program is Focal Point. The network is AFR Talk. You are listening to Focal Point, the home of muscular Christianity on conservative talk radio. Now, one of the other themes that we're following at CPAC is how CPAC, again, which is calling itself the Conservative Political Action Conference, how they are handling the threat that we face from Islam. And again, notice I don't say radical Islam. I just say from Islam. Because Islam itself, the religion of Islam itself, is at war with the West. And we've got so how CPAC, as a Conservative Political Action Conference, is handling the issue of Islam, the threat of Islam, this ought to be an issue around which every genuine conservative can rally, but we're discovering that's not necessarily the case at this year's CPAC. And here to help us sort some of that out is Robert. Oh, we don't have Robert Spencer. Okay. My bad. We're looking to get hold of Robert Spencer, who's the director of Jihad Watch, so we'll keep trying until we bring him on. But Robert Spencer was the guy to set things up if we're able to get him on the phone. Robert Spencer is the director of an organization called Jihad Watch, and Jihad Watch is exactly what the name implies. He's written 12 books. 6 of them have been bestsellers on the New York Times on the truth about Islam, the truth about Muhammad, and he tells the truth about Islam. And his books are very well written. They're exceptionally well researched, and they've been very popular. They've been bestsellers on the New York Times bestseller list. And what Robert Spencer has done is devoted his website to the task of exposing jihad in all of its forms. Now, his blog, Jihad Watch, was one of the blogs that was considered by the organizers of CPAC for their Blog of the Year award. Now, Robert Spencer, for instance, I read about a lot of these insider attacks in Afghanistan on his website. That's sometimes the first place I read about it. We had two American troops were killed over the weekend by an Afghani soldier, by a soldier in uniform, by an Afghan in uniform trained by the United States. Those guys are taking the guns that we trained them how to use, and they're using them on our own soldiers. And on some of these bases, I don't know if this is true on all of them, but I think most of the bases there that we're handing over to the Afghanis, our soldiers are not even allowed to carry weapons on our own military bases. It just makes them human cannon fodder, turns them into a human shooting gallery. And Robert Spencer has this blog, Jihad Watch. He keeps right up to speed with the advance of Islam all around the world. I bring you stories from Jihad Watch virtually every day. I'm on that website several times every day doing show prep. Now, his blog was on the list for the people that go to CPAC to vote on. So there's a whole range of them. I'm looking at a list of, I don't know, a couple of dozen of websites. And those that go to CPAC were able to vote on which of these was their favorite blog. And the winner was going to receive at CPAC the People's Choice Blog Award, the one that got the most votes. Well, the results came in, and Robert Spencer's blog, Jihad Watch, got 52% of the vote, even though it was up against a couple of dozen competitors. The next closest competitor got 23%, and then everybody else, there's one at 9%. Everybody else down around there, 2, one at 7%, 1%, 0%. So overwhelmingly, he won and is the choice of the people for the Blog of the Year award. Now, here's the problem. Robert Spencer wins this award. He's contacted by the organizers at CPAC. You've won the award. But there's a hitch. And they say, look, the hitch here is that you have written about Grover Norquist. Grover Norquist is one of the organizers of CPAC, one of the organizers of the Conservative Political Action Conference. And it turns out that Grover Norquist is real tight with a guy named Suhail Khan, who is a Muslim and is one of the organizing poobahs of CPAC himself. So Grover Norquist and this guy with attachments, connections to Muslim terrorist groups, Suhail Khan, is part of the organizing team of CPAC, and Robert Spencer has written about this. that Grover Norquist is basically in the pocket of radical Islam in the United States. And the evidence of it is his tightness with this Suhail Khan, whose hands are dirty with engagement in activist Islam. And so the organizers at CPAC said to Robert Spencer, hey, look, this is the Tea Party award that's sponsoring this vote and this award. They said to him, look, you can come and receive this award as long as you don't say anything about Grover Norquist and Suhail Khan. As long as you don't say anything about the possible infiltration of Islam into CPAC, you can come and you can receive the award. At which point Robert Spencer said, well, you know, I wasn't planning to say anything about that, but now that you brought it up, now I have to. If you're going to try to put a muzzle over me and tell me what I can and cannot say at CPAC, then I'm going to have to talk about that, and I'm basically going to have to let people know that you tried to put a muzzle on me. And they said, well, in that case, you can't come. So Robert Spencer has been denied the liberty to come to CPAC to receive an award that he won overwhelmingly for one simple reason: he tells the truth about Islam, and that the organizers of CPAC could not handle. Pamela Geller, who often teams with Robert Spencer, she's got a website of her own called Atlas Shrugs that I visit frequently. Do we have Robert with us? Okay. Well, we got Robert with us, so I've just given you the background, and I want to bring Robert Spencer in, who's the director of Jihad Watch. Robert, welcome back to Focal Point with Brian Fisher.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having me on.
Well, it's great to have you on, Robert, and I just spent a few minutes just kind of filling people in on the background, the fact that you won the People's Choice Blog Award at CPAC, and then you were not allowed to receive the award. And I was just telling our listening audience about why you weren't even permitted to come. Tell us about that.
Well, what happened was I saw that there were some things that had been promised to the winner, Brian, and they were a banner at the top of the Tea Party website and some links every day at a news site, a news aggregate site, and neither of those things were happening. And so I contacted John Hawkins of Right Wing News, which was one of the sponsors of the awards, and asked him, and he said, "Oh yeah, you won, but we have to talk." So I called him, and when I called him, he said that people who were higher up than he was, who he could not name to me, had asked him to tell me that when I received this award, I could not speak about the Islamic supremacist ties of Grover Norquist and Suhail Khan, who are two members of the board of the American Conservative Union, which sponsors CPAC. And I said, well, I really couldn't consent to a gag order. And so he said he would get back to me. He would tell them that and tell them that I had to speak about these things. And actually, he asked me at the time, were you planning on speaking about them in the first place? And I said, well, actually, no. But now that there's a gag order, I feel like I kind of have to. And he said he would get back to me. But when he did not, I figured, well, I just can't go because there's no way that I can accept an award under those kinds of circumstances.
Well, give me a couple of examples of the connection between Grover Norquist and Suhail Khan and Islam, radical Islam, dangerous Islam.
Yeah, Grover Norquist, of course, is the founder and the leader of Americans for Tax Reform, which is an extraordinarily important and influential group within the Republican Party. All the politicians, basically, who run for major office as Republicans, they are beholden to Grover Norquist for getting them votes and so on. But what few people know about Grover Norquist is that he has many ties to numerous very unsavory people. For example, Abdurrahman al-Amoudi was the leading so-called moderate Muslim in the United States in the 1990s, and he was the head of the American Muslim Council. He gave $5,000, I believe it was, maybe $10,000, not a huge amount, but nonetheless, he gave this money to Grover Norquist. We have the canceled checks, images of the canceled checks, for Grover to found his Islamic Institute. Now, the point is that he was very closely associated with Grover Norquist. They worked together, and al-Amoudi donated to Norquist's organization, but al-Amoudi is now serving time in prison for funding al-Qaeda, and Grover Norquist is working to get his sentence reduced. This is just one of many such associations. Suhail Khan, who is Norquist's protege, and is also an influential member of the American Conservative Union and somebody who has served in the Bush administration and in the Transportation Department and elsewhere. He has spoken at events that is featured Al-Moody. He has spoken at events. Just recently, he spoke at the Islamic Society of North America convention. The Islamic Society of North America has actually admitted to having close organizational ties to Hamas and the Muslim Brotherhood. And the Muslim Brotherhood, of course, is dedicated in its own words, according to a captured internal document, to eliminating and destroying Western civilization from within. And so these men are really actively working with subversives and people who hate the United States, and yet they wield this extraordinary influence within the Republican Party and the conservative movement.
Robert, we are just about out of time for this segment. Can you hang on for a couple of minutes? I have one or two questions I'd like to follow up with. Do you have time to stick around?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. Well, we'll keep you on after the break. And so what you've got here, Robert, then is, and what I want to talk to you about when we come back after the break, I want to talk about what CPAC has done to Pamela Geller, who is a colleague of yours. And then I also want to talk about how worried we should be about the infiltration of Islam into the conservative movement. But what you're talking about here is you're talking about the organizer of one of the major conservative events of the year, who is wired in pretty tightly with the Muslim Brotherhood, which is dedicated to destroying America from within. 30 seconds to respond to that.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, go ahead. If you, 30 seconds to respond to that.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Yes, these guys are up to their neck in ties to these subversive groups, and that is exactly the charge that I'm making, and let them sue me if they think it's not founded.
When we come back, we'll keep Robert Spencer of Jihad Watch over for a couple of minutes after the break, so stay with us, and we'll ask him to talk about what CPAC has done to a colleague of his, Pamela Geller, and then ask for his kind of overall assessment of how worried we should be about the infiltration of Islam into the conservative movement, all that and more. Coming up after the break, you are listening to Focal Point on AFR Talk. I'm Brian Fisher. We'll be right back. Stay with us.